how has being a left-handed guitarist been a challenge?
Well, aside from in every single way possible,
Right.
it's a challenge generally speaking because as you're learning and you're growing up, there aren't many left-handed guitars.
Yep.
That's just the fact of the matter. There's hardly any, and when there are, they're either really not great or extremely expensive. There's some companies that do cater to that, lefty market, such as like Schecter was one. Agile originally was another company I ended up playing on for a little while. And so it's tough. I mean, some of the challenges you run into are just like day to day things. You go out to like some friends, and there's like every guitar is right handed. It's kind of a bummer. So I've kind of like I can play on a right handed guitar a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Like I can do it, but it's that's some of the challenge. But if you're like a left handed guitar player, like I knew early on, it was like I can't hold a guitar this way, and it's like, well, I guess I'll
Right.
play left handed. So that was something that came to be, and it's more or less the challenge, but there are companies that are catering to the left-handed market, which is nice.
Right. I've always noticed, when I go to stores, there's like two,
Yeah,
maybe.
Squire,
Yeah, or like
little
a shitty freaking like Ibanez or something like that.
Yeah,
But
dude, it's the little like knockoff Fender and the Ibanez like RG entry level guitar. You can like
yeah, they're like,
RG it.
dude, I know there's some left-handed guitar players out there. This is a good market. Let's put it up $200 more.
Yeah, they do
So,
have a price increase. Even like
oh,
I'm a
for sure.
lefty, and my Sig model through Schecter is like $50 more, which is a modest price more. That's
Yeah.
like not bad. Some companies, it's definitely a lot higher than $50. So
Right. It's like 200.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, depending on where you go, man. Yeah, it's pricey. So that's a
so
problem.
yeah, I've always been curious about that because like my friends were like, I'm feeling a left-handed, like I don't think I'm a right-handed guitar player. I'm like, all right, well, you're gonna be broke, dude.
Yeah,
So
your life's going to be a lot harder for sure. I mean, it's one of those things, like if you're left-handed, well, what's funny is I'm actually right-handed. I do almost everything right-handed. I swing a bat left-handed, I golf left-handed. Um, like I shoot like right-handed.
right,
I write right-handed. I do everything else right-handed. But the guitar is like if you are, and it's some people. If you're on the fence, like you should push for righty. If it's really like you can go either way, I recommend doing it right-handed if
right.
you can. But yeah, it's not
Now,
really a
before all
choice.
this, like, I don't know, before you got in bands and stuff, obviously you used cheap guitars, but as
Yeah.
you moved up, did you reach out to guitar companies other than like, Schecter now and say, hey, like, can you make me a guitar? Or did you always like go with stock models?
Dude, you know what? I had originally I was specking out a Halo guitar, and I don't know if those are any good really. I was younger at the time. Excuse me. I was a little younger at the time, but I think I reached out maybe to like one or two companies, just kind of poking feelers. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, ungodly expensive and left handed, so even more expensive. So I went with the stock models. Like I had, I'm looking at my rack
Right.
right now. I have a couple Agiles. Those are pretty good guitars. I've got a lefty Gibson. And then outside of that, I had like little LTD, ESP models that were, the
Oh
pretty
my.
inexpensive ones. Yeah, yeah, they're like I
I
don't know.
that's my least favorite. Not to shit on them, but I had one and it only lasted a week.
What happened?
Uh it just didn't play good. Like I had really cheap Jackson. I love Jackson. But they were really cheap and they outplayed an LTD. Like
Mm.
I, I don't know. Maybe it was the model. It was like a Strat style LTD. So,
Dude,
I
something
mean,
that happens too is the quality control on those. I swear to God, man, like the
yeah,
QC on that, it's like it's not the same. It's I don't get it. It's the same dudes checking them, and they're just like, yeah, this one's fucked. Let's leave it. Send it out.
send it
Like,
out.
what?
It's good, man. Send it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the high E string's like off the guitar, but it's cool. This guy's like left-handed. He probably won't even do
Right.
it. But yeah, I
So,
went. I went with the stock models as the answer, I
right. Elixir strings. I watched a
guess.
gear video. I've never. I mean, I've played Elixirs a few times. I play DiMarzios now. What separates them from like Ernie balls? That's a pretty standard string.
Yeah, so like the standard non-coded strings for me, like I noticed this when I was younger and playing guitar. Like I've been playing the Elixirs for, oh man, before I even was like with them as an artist, I was playing them for sure. Um, but I was playing like DRs before that, like Diodario before that, and man, I was just like fucking ripping through strings every God, like every week maybe, if not more. It's
Right.
like they start to feel dead. They start getting that like, you run your fingers down them and they're not smooth anymore. It's like that kind of shit
Yeah.
on it, and it was just going through them quick. And I was like, okay, well, let me try these like coated strings. And so I tried the elixirs, man, and they're really comfortable under your fingers. They're like soft. It feels like they're easier to bend. Honestly, it feels like not such a like an abrasive thing.
Right.
God, I'm sorry, my throat,
It's all right.
man. Jeez. They're not so abrasive on your fingers, and they feel really smooth to run your fingers along. And the big thing too is like they really do last a long time. Even playing, as much as I do now, or even when I was a little younger and playing more than I do now because I was like practicing
Right.
constantly.
I've heard that from
Um,
every person, every guitar player.
Yeah, I don't play as much now. Sometimes I do. When I do, I really play a lot, but I take more time off now, and I get upset about it. So it's just like I need
Yeah.
to. It's just like time allocation, and other things in life get in the way. Like even music related, like this is my job, but there's other things that get in the way. Where it's like, you know what, I've been doing emails all day, I've been teaching all day, and the last thing I want to do right now is like play guitar, and then I want a day off. I want a day off from
Right.
music because I'm doing it so much. But point being, man, the big thing that sets them apart is they sound really great. They're bright. They have a lot of life to the tone. In my opinion, it's like unplugged. You could just like strum a chord, and you're like, oh, that sounds nice. And
Yeah.
they last a long time, and they feel really nice on your fingers. So I definitely recommend them. I mean, and if you're for some reason have like a Elixir Vendetta, other coated strings do exist. You could go with other
Yeah.
things just to try it. Because man, I personally won't go back to a non-coated string. I don't think I
I
will ever do it.
right now I got Diodario's XLs. What's a good like what do you use? What's the name on the packaging if I were
I
to go
use the
try them out?
Elixir NanoWebs. They have
Nano
Polyweb,
webs.
OptiWeb, and NanoWeb. The OptiWebs are newer. They're supposed to feel more like a standard string, a little bit less of a coating. The Polywebs are a little more slick than the NanoWebs, which is kind of cool. Honestly, it's pretty sick. But the NanoWebs are the ones I used to play on those XLs you're talking about, though, and I would rip through those pretty quick, and they start to sound dead. They're like a little out of tune, and they
Right.
get that
Yeah, for
crust
sure.
on
Out
them,
of
dude.
tune. Out of tune is my issue right now. Like I don't know. I'll play and there's a certain note that goes out of tune every time I play it. Um
Yeah, I mean that could be a multitude of things, but if it's definitely been narrowed down to the strings, that'll
right.
happen, man. They get like dented, they start getting crust and gunk on them, and that means they're not oscillating properly, which means the intonation is weird because they're not like the string spins. When you pick it, it's like
Right.
if you go up close, it's actually like spinning in a circle, and um, yeah, it starts to get out of whack and not spin correctly, and then
Nano webs.
now your notes are out of tune. But yeah, honestly, I mean, give them a shot. And it's like if you're it sounds like you're very involved in this, and this is something you have a passion for. It's for the whatever they are,
I
10-12 bucks a pack. Like just try one, and if you hate it, you hate it, and if not, you might be like, holy shit, what have I been missing?
yeah, I've never that's one thing I've never like experimented with is strength. I just always went with either Ernie balls or Diodarios. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've
So
played on the Diodario XLs. That was the string I jammed on for years, man. I played on those for probably like 4 years. I probably played 100 sets of those, like at
yeah.
least. And yeah, once I tried the elixirs, I was like, well,
Sold.
I feel stupid. Yeah, some of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things is like, what have I been doing?
So
So,
another thing I saw, mahogany neck. I'm a big maple guy. Would you?
what mahogany neck? What are you talking about?
I don't know. It was some freaking interview when you guys were on tour. You were talking about a guitar that had a mahogany. some type of neck finish. Um, I don't know if
Uh,
it was a black guitar. It was an all black guitar.
yeah, I have a. Oh, you know what? Was it like my Strat looking one? Was it the six
Yeah.
string?
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, that has the mahogany body, I believe,
Oh,
not the
okay.
neck. The neck's maple on there. Maybe I brought up my Les Paul because the Les Paul, if I'm not mistaken, has a mahogany neck, and that's pretty neat. I think that's cool. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the mahogany body for sure on those is what those have. The maple neck on those is they have a
Right.
maple neck
I
mahogany body.
I
I
thought
could have
when
said it wrong. I could have spoken totally
yeah, I
wrong,
don't know. I
honestly.
don't know if it was the person asking the question or you, but I was like mahogany neck. What the fuck? So
Yeah, that might have been me misspeaking. Maybe it was like one of those interview days
it's
where
all
you
right.
like drank too much the night before and you just
The
don't know what you're
coffee.
saying. Yeah,
Co-
yeah, coffee, or you just
yeah.
had wait partied too hard the next day or the night before, and then you're just like, I don't know what I'm saying, but I have to do this
So
interview. One of those things.
yeah, exactly. What's the biggest difference between playing an interloper versus Rings of Saturn besides the music?
Oh God, everything. How the band operates is a lot different. Like not necessarily go into detail, but it was, the operation is a lot different internally with Interloper than it is with Rings. Rings is obviously, further ahead. Rings has been a band for 10 years, longer than that at this point. I
Yeah.
think they did their first single in like 2008 or 9 or something. I don't even know. But, so it's a little bit of a different operation. We have to approach things in Interloper, looking a little bit more towards the future because it's not as solidified right now. Like we signed with a major record label and we have all these things in motion, but it's at a much more, um, I guess, like
Early
infant
stages,
state.
kind of.
Yeah, it's in the early stages, but it still had a reasonable amount of traction. So the internal operations are a little bit different. What we want to do image wise as a band is different, which is a little bit separate from the music, which kind of ties in with the music, but the imagery with say music videos or like the band's aesthetic doesn't always necessarily go directly hand in hand with like the music. So we have a
Right.
different approach to that, and I think it's nice because we have a little bit more of a springboard to kind of do whatever we want. We're not like already
Yeah.
locked. We're not locked into this like aesthetic, or lack thereof. I guess I could say like with Rings, it was pretty neutral. We had like the alien thing, but like as individuals, there wasn't anything that like, oh yeah, these guys dress like this or like whatever. So with Loper,
Right.
that's
Yeah, you
like an
didn't have like
option.
outfits or anything. You just do whatever the hell
Yeah,
you want.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something we may or may not do with Loper, or maybe like something more tied in, like something, I don't know. We have that option, I guess, is a big difference. And,
Right.
we already have like an image more or less, but we have more flexibility to go where we want. Whereas opposed to Rings, there might potentially be more opposition to that. Whereas with Loper, I think it's a lot more unlikely that there would be any at all.
Right. So I was debating to ask this question, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Do you have any regrets in departing from Rings of the Saturn?
Huh. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Um, you know, yes and no. I think the regrets I have are based in something that was never going to be. Like I regret things in a sense of like, oh, if this didn't happen, it could have been this, but in reality, it never would have been. So it's like I
Right.
have like a wishful regret. It's like a contingent regret on something that's just never going to happen. So not necessarily, and I'm glad that I, got out of that whole situation and am doing this thing now. Because Rings, even though like I wrote basically that last album all too, that was never gonna be like my band, like something where
Yeah.
I'm like necessarily as proud of to be like, yeah, this is my band, this is my group of people, we're all like kicking ass together and like doing our thing. I didn't have that sense of pride in a project I was working on because I felt, a little removed from it. And that's something with Loper. Like we all, I think, feel like this is our band and like we're stoked on it. And
Right.
it's cool to be proud of something like that as a unit, which I think is something that a band requires to function.
Right.
Like
Yeah, dude.
you need that.
The thing about a band people don't realize is, yeah, like the majority of it is making music, but dealing with people, giving credits to people that actually like did the work, like give it like, I don't know, like you got to be respectful to everybody. And if somebody is stepping on somebody's shoes, or, you know, personalities don't like, you know, work together, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And that's something, a lot of bands encounter. And it's like, can you make it through it or not? Can you come to a middle ground? Because every band is going to have those problems. It's just
right.
going to happen. It doesn't matter who you are. And it's like a lot of people say, how does every band start out best friends and how does every band end? Not as that, it's that same
Right.
deal. So it's like those who can make it through or those who can't. So I would guess, like, all in all, answering the rings question, I don't have any regret doing that. You know,
Yep.
I think I'm happy with it, and I think it's going to be better in the long run for myself as an individual and just everything else in my life.
Yep. So how did, Interloper originally start?
Well, it started years ago, man. It was like a long time ago, actually, but it was really just kind of like an idea. So I had some like tunes I was doing, and then I was like, "Hey, Aaron, like let's like play some stuff." And he was, he wrote some drums for stuff, and we were, more or less like started the band. He was pretty wrapped up with at the time. I think Abiotic was who he was playing with, and then after that Rings. So it was kind of like me doing a lot of the stuff, and he was out doing his shit. So it was kind of like that, and then it became more of a thing where I was like, hey man, let's like I want to do this band. I got some art made. I actually ended up like drawing the logo, and then I got Mark Cooper to turn it into something. It was like three pieces
Yeah,
of paper like
dude, he's so good,
sandwiched.
man.
Yeah,
That
he
guy,
did a good job.
that guy, he's like one of my favorite
Yeah, he's
artists
done
of
a
all time.
lot of work. Yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff. But it was
I
like
haven't
this.
I haven't been able to use anything or buy anything from him yet, but in the future, yes, I'm trying to get
Yeah,
something.
definitely. Yeah, and he's easy to work with too, man. But it was like three pieces of paper. Like I was trying to like I can't draw it out. I'm not like an artist, so I'd screw up and I just like overlay a piece of paper, and then we got the logo. He did it and made it all nice and sharp and not look like how I had it. And then
Right.
yeah, I put out Red Letter Day, and then I think Absolution like right after that, and right after that, both of those things, I ended up joining Rings, so it's kind of like, well, shit, okay.
Yeah.
So it's just been a band that like existed, but was like back burner forever. And
The
now,
back burners always come through, man.
yeah, I hope so, man. That's the plan. It's looking to be so. We just gotta keep the ship rolling, dude. And that's it.
Yep.
So give it a proper go. Really is what it is. Unfortunately, with this, record label signing and a lot of the things we have like in the works, it's
Hmm.
it's looking like we're going to have a very nice platform to see what happens.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So on to you do lessons and stuff. What do you often teach students? Like songwriting technique, theory?
Yeah, usually a grouping of those three. I think I have more. It kind of depends, dude. It like comes and goes. Honestly, it's weird. It's like in waves of people. I'll have like one week and everyone's asking me about technique, and then I'll have another week and it's like everyone wants to like learn songwriting and like how to put parts together and like things you can do for that. So it's a nice combo, but generally it's based around um, technique, theory, and then like writing. But the theory and writing go hand in hand because obviously you can use your ear for things, and there's a lot of people who don't know any theory and write awesome music because they just have it in their head.
Yep.
But for most, that's not the case, and like I fall into that category too. It's like I hear things, and then it's like, okay, what could I do next? Like, what's something that would be neat? Or what do I like feel sounds cool? And then from that like idea of my thought of thinking, oh, this kind of thing would sound cool, I now like go into that spot in my head where I'm like, okay, well, what's going to create that kind of sound? And then that's
Right.
like where the theory comes in, where it's like I'm not just guessing notes. I'm like, does this work? Does this work? It's like I know exactly what notes are working in this key. How do I, put this into something workable? And so
Right.
I'll go over that with people and do like a lot of song analysis if they want to go that route. But a lot of it, comes down to like scales and modes, building chords from that, because that's your foundation. That's how you build
Yeah.
everything. If
That's
you
the
understand your
platform.
scale, yeah, if you understand your scales and modes, like you're going to be able to learn other keys, in like variations, harmonic minor, melodic minor, all sorts of things like that, because you now understand how it works, and that's ultimately going to be the tools in your tool belt for you to write with, to play with, to improvise with. And so I go over a lot of that with people, and then that ties in itself. A lot of people who do lessons with me on theory for X amount of time, they're like, hey, I want to work on my technique. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let's put this theory we've gone over into practice. Not only can we look at this in real life songs that you like and enjoy, but we can say, hey, let's build some exercises on this, and it's just going to compound that information even further, which is really nice. Because if
Right.
you have someone who's like, oh yeah, I know in 1983 this guy did, it's like trivial information. Yeah, it's like, who fucking cares, man? Like, you need to have
Right.
like something to apply this information to. Otherwise, not only you're not going to be able to use it, it's just like useless to know. So
Right.
that's something I really focus on in lessons, is like applying everything we talk about to like, hey, here is this in this song that you like. This is cool. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I get it. That's what sparked it for me. So
I had lessons for 7 years, and my guitar teacher was primarily a blues like enthusiast, like anything about blues, you know.
enthusiast.
A- yeah, man, like dude, anytime I would say, "Hey man, I want to learn a song." He goes, "Steve Ray Vaughan? No, I don't want to play that metal shit. Come on, man. Like let's play something good." And
Yeah, that's off-putting for sure.
yeah, I mean like for me, I was like, "Fuck, man, he's a great teacher." I mean, I stuck with him, but now I have like a more melodic feel when I play guitar because of him. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's something to pick from everyone. I had many teachers growing up. I had like classical guitar teacher. I had more of like a blues dude. I had a rock dude, and then I had like the metal guy was Nick Cordell, arch enemy in Arsis, who he was with for a while. And
yep.
that dude is just a fucking machine, dude. He knows his shit inside and out, and he taught it in a very very easy to understand way, which like is important. And more importantly, he was like, "Hey, you like Arsis a lot. Let's look at those songs, and look at how this stuff's being used." And that was what really sparked it for me. So yeah, that's
Right.
important, man. You gotta have a teacher you vibe with. And there's like students of mine, mostly because of what I do and like who I am with the music I've done and whatnot. People come to me already with that like palette, so it's a little easier. I'm not working with like a
Right.
15-year-old kid whose parents are like, hey, he needs to take guitar lessons, and like I don't know. It's like I'm people who come to me are already kind of in this realm of music,
Yeah.
and I show
They're
them things that are outside of it. It's like I'll bring that other approach of like, hey, I know we've done sweep arpeggios for 2 lessons, but let's talk about chord voicings, like that kind of thing.
yeah,
It's like, oh, okay, cool, I get
exactly. The parents are like, "Do not teach him the devil music, man. Do not."
it. Yeah, I've had a lot of really really cool students, and the younger ones. I actually have one guy. I have a couple really young students who are good. This one dude in particular, though, Taryn Albergo McGovern. This dude is a child prodigy. I swear to God, it's like unbelievable, and
right.
that's really neat. This dude just has it. He's just got it, man. It's that thing. It's like that thing you can't pinpoint, but it's just there.
Yeah. Shit.
So, yeah.
You're li-
So he's got some
you're
supportive
look
parents.
you're looking back when when you were a young guitar player like me, and you're like, "Fuck, man, I wish I was as good as this kid, man."
Yeah, I remember I came on my first lesson with this dude, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I learned this stuff by ear." He's got an incredible ear, by the way. And he's playing these like Rings tunes that I wrote, like cleaner than me, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding?"
right.
He's just like, "How old are you?" He's like 15, and I'm like, "Get out!" Like, this is crazy, but it was
You're like, "All
awesome because,
right,
dude,
cash it in. I'm done."
yeah, take here's your money. But no, we had plenty of things to talk about and go over, but he was someone who just and still is someone who just like eats it up and runs with it. He's got that passion and that like burning fucking desire to just get good, and keep learning and pushing himself. And it's his love for the instrument, man. And it's really cool to see that, because as like a teacher, it's a bummer when you're going over something with someone and they're just like
All
deer in
right.
headlights. It's like, are you even like, do you even want to do this? And then you have someone who's like really interested, and that just hypes you up, and that goes really well. And I think both parties, teacher and student, have a really good time, and that's important because
Right.
that's how you learn, man. That was how some of my best lessons were when I was like stoked on something and my teacher was like, yeah, dude, that's exactly it. And like, now you can try it like this. I'm like, I don't quite get it. He's like, well, look at it this way. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm learning everything,
I'm
like,
learning everything.